Viewers, the world is watching with bated breath as Donald Trump steps into the Oval Office once again. This isn't just a return, it's a tectonic realignment of the global stage. The air seems charged with anticipation, with dread, if I can, with a kind of electric excitement that only Trump could have conjured. Viewers, in the shadow of Trump's return, look at what's happening. President Joe Biden, in a move that speaks volumes of the political times we are living in, has issued preemptive pardons. That's right. It's a testament to the tremors felt within the corridors of power, within the, dare I say, Soros ecosystem, and among the woke lobby viewers who see their world tottering on the brink of transformation or destruction. In other words, Trump's return is seen as the beginning of the woke apocalypse. Viewers, the Soros ecosystem, that network of influence peddlers and globalists, is fretting in the shadows. Their carefully orchestrated plans, their investments in shaping a worldview, now faces a bulldozer in the form of Trump's disdain for what he calls the establishment, quote unquote. Viewers, this isn't just politics. It's a cultural war where Trump stands at both general and the symbol, ready to dismantle the woke ecosystem. There's also the Soros ecosystem, mind you, that vast interconnected network of influence peddlers with its fingers in global policy, media, academia, now braces for impact. The very notion of preemptive pardons tells you that there is unrest. Maybe there is something to hide, something to shield. We don't know. Viewers, for some time now, Elon Musk has been highly critical of the woke mind virus, which he has described as a threat to modern civilization. You would remember, he has even said that these concerns motivated his decision to buy the social media platform X, which was back then known as Twitter. Viewers, Musk has said that the woke mind virus consists of creating very, very divisive identity politics that amplifies racism, that amplifies sexism. He had said that this so-called virus actually divides people and makes them hate each other and hate themselves. Viewers, in fact, Musk had called it communism rebranded. The reason there is so much emphasis on Musk is because of the emphasis Trump, yes, the emphasis that Trump gives to Musk. So viewers, buckle up, because the ride ahead promises to be anything but smooth. Let's quickly open this up. Thomas Rose, former senior advisor and chief strategist to the US Vice President and former publisher and the CEO of the Jerusalem Post. Christopher Hale, Democratic strategist. Omar Altaf, journalist from Islamabad. Dr. Sumansi Raman, political analyst. Lokesh Jindal on the show. Sushil Pandit. Suhail Seth needs no introduction, and we have Srinjoy Chaudhary joining us here in the studio. I want to begin by asking Mr. Pandit, in some time from now, in precisely 90 minutes from now, Trump would have taken oath. What are you expecting? Because as we speak, sir, there is complete meltdown in the so-called Soros ecosystem.
Absolutely, Pranesh. Good evening to you and all my fellow panelists. Thank you for having me on this show. Trump is harbinger of some very interesting times. He has single-handedly smashed the stereotypical sweet, syrupy, sugary, woke, glib and profound vocabulary of woke through some plain speak. In the elections, he very clearly delineated his agenda, and people have voted on that agenda. He stood out. He's fought precisely 3 elections all his life, all presidential elections, and if you ask him, he won all 3 of them. But he won 2 at least. And what a victory. And it has set at rest all doubts about this constituency or that constituency not voting for him, this swing state or that swing state swinging the other way. He has earned a comprehensive victory, and that gives him a solid mandate for his own agenda. And his agenda is very clear. He wants his borders to be secure. He wants American jobs back in America. He wants the aspiring hegemons to be put into their place and not hold the entire world and its economy at ransom. He wants terror to be nicely demolished, dismantled, wherever it raises its ugly head. He doesn't want the wars to be perpetual. He is a deal maker, and he wants to make deals wherever possible in order to bring normalcy.
Right.
And this sounds great optimism. Well, he has some of the rough edges to him, and that is indeed causing a bit of consternation here and there. But I think overall, on balance, he is far more promising and far more reassuring than creating worries or concerns.
But Mr. Pandit, you are
That's
saying so, but the sense that one gets from the latest, the executive orders from President Biden, preemptive pardons have been done. Mr. Thomas Rose, what explains this? Is there something to hide, something to be shielded?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. The answer, of course. I mean, Mr. Pandit kind of laid it out very clearly. These preemptive pardons are unprecedented because no investigations of the folks that were pardoned, and it was a broad blanket pardon. For those in India not familiar with the American Constitution, the president has the absolute right to pardon anyone within his jurisdiction for any crimes he or she may have committed. What President Biden, who thankfully in less than 2 hours will no longer be President Biden, what he did late last night in the final hours of his presidency was to issue sweeping preemptive pardons against four members of a congressional committee that investigated President Trump, attempted to convict President Trump of crimes he was never accused of committing. He pardoned unprecedentedly. He pardoned the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, the leading military figure in the United States, the highest-ranking military figure in the United States, for actions that he took in the waning days of the Trump administration, undermining the president as chairman of the Joint Chiefs, colluding with the president of China and his counterparty in the People's Liberation Army. It's unprecedented. It sets a terrible tone to start the new presidency of President Trump. Yes, the answer is obviously they had things to hide, which is why the President Biden needed to issue this pardon.
Suhail, why is there so much unease? I mean, look at the commentary on social media. And this has been going on over the last few months, ever since the election results have come out. People have said that, the world is on the brink of a war. You can't trust Donald Trump in the White House, so on and so forth. Who are these people who are scared?
These are irrelevant, illogical, woke people. And their time to remain asleep has arrived. See, this whole liberal thing, as Sushil rightly said, it's now over. It was a drama of the deep state under Biden, which kind of undermined not only America's supremacy, but the American supremacy. Donald Trump has made it very clear that he will wage war on behalf of the Americans. And I don't mean war in the literal sense. He's a deal maker by nature. If you remember, Pranesh, go back into American history, and my American friend will bear me out on this. Ever since Roosevelt, he was the only American president under whom America never went to war. The so-called Barack Obama being liberal and being all this fancy-shancy, He said, oh, I will shut down Guantanamo Bay. Did he? He didn't. He did nothing. He did deadly jack. Did you ever see, Pranesh, and obviously you're in the media, you saw what Biden did with all the people in Afghanistan who actually supported the Americans? He left them high and dry overnight. There were people who were falling off airplanes. This is the scoundrel that Biden was. And Biden was being run remote control by Obama. Obama will go down in history as the worst American president ever. And let me tell you, the same people, again, my American friend will bear me out, the same people who abused Ronald Reagan today say that Ronald Reagan was America's finest president. Trump has no filters. You need someone who is honest, transparent. Does he have his flaws? Of course he has his flaws. Is he right-wing? No. He is a believer in America first, as any American president should be. He's not looking for the Nobel Prize. Obama got the Nobel Prize. What did he do for peace? What did Barack Obama ever do for peace? So the question that begs an answer is, do you want to be with hoodlums and pretenders, or do you want to be with someone who will say it as it is? Trump will say it as it is. Why the left are worried is because the left have nowhere to hide. He will take action against the people that he believes are illegal migrants, as he should. He will take action on behalf of America, as he should. So all those who think he will be very India-friendly must also think again. He's America's president. He's not India's presidential choice for America. So whatever he does, he will do in American interest, as he should. He's the American president, for God's sake.
Christopher Hale, what explains these preemptive pardons by the outgoing president, Mr. Biden? First it was Hunter Biden. Now you have a whole new list. I think you're on mute, Mr. Hale. If you could unmute yourself and speak.
In December 2020, Donald Trump preemptively considered pardoning his family. So he is in 2 hours going to pardon people who committed violence against police officers here in Washington, D.C., in the United States. I just think that your panelists earlier obviously have never read the Bible or the ninth commandment, thou shalt not lie. I mean, it's full of nonsense. You all are high on nonsense. No. Listen. No. Like the absurdity to talk about Barack Obama. Barack Obama hasn't been in office for 8 years. No, you can put your hand up as much as you want. You're full of nonsense.
Suhail, I'll come to you. Let him make his point. I'll come to you, Suhail.
No,
you
I haven't read the Bible. I have read the Bible. That doesn't mean
you did not read the Bible. You hold up the Bible in one hand and denigrate everything it stands for.
Why would I hold the Bible?
No, this is not about Bible. Let's talk about Biden, please.
Look,
gentlemen,
this
please.
is nonsense. The absurdity that Joe Biden has had a presidency run by Barack Obama. He has been his own man. There's been conflations and contests between.
Okay,
him
Mr.
and
Hale,
Obama.
let me ask
He's
you
not the
this.
same
I am
president.
reading from the statement released, from the president's office, and here's one sentence that caught my attention. It says, even when individuals have done nothing wrong and in fact have done the right thing and will ultimately be exonerated, the mere fact of being investigated or prosecuted can irreparably damage reputations and finances. By this logic, why were you pursuing the case against Mr. Trump? And by this logic, there should be no cases against anyone.
Sir, that is the most vile nonsense I have ever heard. The president of the United States on January 6th, while you're sitting in your TV chair, I was in Washington, D.C., watching his supporters bloody police officers. Are you pro police violence? Do you think we should be able to hit and bloody police officers with poles? They had a noose to hang the vice president of the United States. Do you think that's not worthy of investigation? Do you believe in the peaceful transfer of power? Is that something? I believe
Mr. Hale, Mr. Hale, I'll tell you, I am 1 minute. I am anti-violence and I'm anti-hypocrisy. Why did Biden pardon his son? Isn't that the most profound, conflict of interest? Most profound. Can there be a bigger example of conflict of interest? Is that not nonsense for you?
He won't. After repeatedly promising that he won't ever pardon him.
Suhail is saying something.
Very important to understand what Biden said in his statement. He says, I'm pardoning my son because the Department of Justice and justice per se has been weaponized in America. The word used was weaponized. And he says, I know he will not get a fair trial or a fair hearing. Therefore, I'm pardoning my son. Christopher Hale now wants us to hold the Bible in order to defend a nepotistic, unable president who struggled to do anything during his presidency. Anything. See, Christopher, what did he do with Gaza? What did he do with Israel? What did he do? You tell me. What did he do with your own Americans in Afghanistan? You have no answer to that. So let me tell you, the answer to that is not by holding the Bible. It's by holding a mirror to yourselves. Start holding a mirror rather than the Bible, and you will learn more.
Year war in Afghanistan. He built the biggest infrastructure investment in the globe in 2021. He ensured that the pandemic ended in this country. While cases rose in India and elsewhere, they dropped in the United States in 2021 and 2022. No, President Biden has an extraordinary record.
Denial. Christopher, are you Biden's spokesperson? Have you been pardoned? What is the issue? You're now saying that Joe Biden ended the pandemic. The pandemic ended on its own, for God's sake, or for the Bible's sake. I mean, what are you guys saying?
What vaccines got distributed throughout the world? Where did they come from? Can you tell me? Where did they come from?
India. A large part from
India.
India.
United States.
Okay, Mr. Hale, look, Mr. Hale, you're not, let me bring in Srinjoy. Srinjoy, we were talking about the woke lobby, the Soros ecosystem, and then I read out this, this portion from the statement. This is rubbish.
See, from the Indian point, Pranesh, it's almost a sense of relief. Yeah, there are worries, there are concerns about what Trump can do, because it's widely known that the one thing about Trump is his unpredictability. But look at the opportunity cost. Here was Narendra Modi in Washington, D.C., looking for a bilateral, a proper bilateral with President Biden. He was told, meet the vice president. Okay, so far so good, assuming that is acceptable. Then what happens? Vice President Harris gives him a lecture about so-called quote-unquote human rights violations and other things. As a Prime Minister of India, we don't want to be lectured by anybody. And here was Vice President Harris lecturing Prime Minister Modi about what to do in his own country and what not to do. These are not things that we really liked. Then there are a couple of things that have happened that actually have made India very worried. One was this problem in Bangladesh. And it's very clear, since I know what has happened over these years, that this is something that the Clintons have played a role in some way, and through the Democratic administration. So this has left India with a lot of trouble in Bangladesh.
No, while you're making those points, Mr. Hale is amused. Mr. Hale, why are you laughing?
It doesn't matter
Three
who
absurdities
laughs.
No. I mean, I want to speak very truthfully here to the Indian people. There are human rights abuses in India. That is the truth. Any man on this show who denies that reality.
Don't talk rubbish.
And Harris to lecture us
Mr.
about
Hale, don't talk rubbish.
Mr. Hale, you should just, focus on what the Biden administration could have done but could not do. And on the things No, there are many
There was a
things. There are many things. There are many things. But begin by answering just two questions. Why is President Biden shielding these individuals? Why? And what does this mean? The mere fact of being investigated or prosecuted can irreparably damage reputations and finances. Shut down courts then. Why should anyone face the law then?
In the United States, you can indict a ham sandwich. Look, we have a history, unfortunately, in this country of political prosecutions. Joseph McCarthy ruined lives by claiming that young lawyers and staffers in the United States Senate and members of the United States Armed Forces were somehow part of the Communist Party. Just the mere investigations ruined those lives, their finances. Two committed suicide. So yeah, I mean, the idea that prosecutions cannot ruin lives, investigations cannot ruin lives. I mean, that's nonsense, right? We know that to be nonsense.
Then why is it coming from the president's desk, his office? If this is nonsense, and the man who signed on it, he's endorsing nonsense. You know the name.
No, you're disabusing what I'm saying. You're mischaracterizing what I'm saying. The nonsense is investigations for crimes that they cannot commit.
Okay.
I mean, the reality of it is
Mr. Rose, what do you make of this, sentence I read out from the statement and the response of Mr. Hale?
It's one of the most remarkable acts of projection. This after 4 years of witch hunts, actually 8 years of witch hunts, of outrageous persecutions. Mr. Hale talks about January 6th. The difference is the people that President Trump will likely pardon in coming days have done their time. They were prosecuted. They've been imprisoned. They've paid their dues. They've been financially bankrupted. More than 1,000 people were arrested, indicted, prosecuted, jailed for the actions on January 6, 2021, 4 years ago. Just now, the fact that we're talking about something 4 years in the past demonstrates, I think, it personifies how lost the Democrat Party in America is. As for the constant hectoring and badgering of our allies and friends, that they're not living up to quote unquote our values, that will end as of noon today. India is a democracy. It's the largest democracy in the world. You're a free people. You have free elections. You make your own choices. President Trump and his administration are going to respect the wishes of democratic people, of free people. You're not going to see this hectoring and badgering and this sanctimonious holier-than-thou preaching about the values of
and of reading the Bible.
Allies fall short.
No, we don't want to be told what to do.
Of course not.
That's the whole point.
Okay, let's bring in the others. Dr. Sumansi Raman has been listening intently to this. Dr. Raman, imagine if such an order were to come from the Indian Prime Minister's office, that the mere fact of being investigated, prosecuted can irreparably damage reputation and finances. Would you call it democratic or dictatorial?
Pranesh, I think there are 2 points to be made here. One, yes, Biden lost the plot, especially over the last 1 year after having done a fairly decent job on the pandemic and the economy, both of which were quite resilient, especially the economy was quite resilient and the pandemic was well controlled. In the last 1 year, but particularly after the debate, which was a disaster, and subsequently, all that happened with Gaza and so on, he did lose the plot. And it was very clear that, it was downhill very, visibly to everyone. Having said that, this kind of, that Trump will be the savior of the world or savior of America is, I think, is more based on, the hatred that one may have of the liberals and so on, rather than based on any scientific evidence. This is a man who has been the president for 4 years and he has not transformed America in any significant manner. Yes, he did have a relatively war-free 4 years, in the sense that America did not get actively involved in more and more new conflicts. So to that extent, I would grant that. But having said that, I don't see, that everything is going to be transformed and, America is going to make America great again kind of a story that is being sold, ironically, by many of the Indians on this panel who probably, have as much knowledge or as little knowledge of what Trump is likely to do as anyone else. So the point really is that, look, it was a choice between two pretty awful candidates. Originally between Mr. Biden, who was visibly declining in his mental faculties and so on, and Mr. Trump, who, for all practical purposes, is a convict. He's been convicted by a court of law in the United States, and never mind if he wasn't given a sentence or a punishment.
But Dr. Raman, all very well. But all very well. But in the same breath, then in the same breath, at least then you must applaud because Trump did not run away from prosecution. He did not run away from law enforcement agencies. Or what many people say, the tyranny of the establishment. And look at what Biden has been up to. One presidential pardon after the other. And yet many people call Trump dictatorial.
Yes. 1 minute. Let us, for the record, make one thing very clear. Biden, when he took office, was asked this very question. And there's the video which is, being played out repeatedly over the last few hours, where he says that you will not find me doing something like this. When he was asked, when Trump had attempted to sign a few orders before he left his first term, Biden was asked the same question, will you do it? And he said, you won't see me doing it. And that's exactly what he's done now. So having said that, that's hypocritical, and that is certainly, something that will weigh his legacy down even further. Besides that, this whole idea that, everything is going to be transformed, I don't know where this hype is coming from. This man has been president for 4 years. He's been younger.
No, but why are people so dismissive about Trump? Suhail said, of the many people on the panel, you are someone who advised Donald Trump in his, presidential campaign. There are, pictures of you, Trump, Melania, and the others. What do you think of the commentary around him, including what Dr. Sumant Raman just said?
See, Sumant has made one valid point, that the legacy is yet to be defined. The legacy after the first term, if you actually see, the economy was in fine fettle. America didn't wage war with anyone. There were no conflicts that were begun by him. And he actually brought back manufacturing. Did he make populist statements? Of course he did. Every president does. John F. Kennedy did it. You remember the famous face-off at the Bay of Pigs? Obviously, Chris won't remember because he's an avowed anti-Trumper. The reality is Trump will be a better president of America because he actually believes in America. Biden was an American president wanting to please the world, much like Obama. Obama wanted to be the world's president, the nice guy, the guy you like to invite, the guy you wanted to host, the guy whose audacity of hope actually outshone his audacity of intellect. Trump is not that. What you see about Trump is what you get. A, B. Trump does float balloons only to elicit a reaction. So when he talked about the wall in that campaign, and now when he's talking about Canada and Greenland, it's to float balloons. Does he genuinely believe in Make America Great Again? Of course he does. And forget Chris. Who the hell is Chris? Who the hell is Biden? Who the hell am I? The fact is that the American people have elected him. Respect that mandate if you are a democracy.
That's right. And talking about the mandate, there's an ecosystem here, Suhail, that remains in denial about the mandate Mr. Modi has. Lokesh?
The wokes are the same. They are somnambulists. The woke liberal jokers are the same across the world. They have a problem for every solution. They are not people who are looking for the rainbow. They are looking for the dark light.
Okay, let's just let's just, call it the shared identity problem. Lokesh.
Yes, Pranesh, more than an individual, we have to look at the policy that individual is supporting. Right now, Donald Trump talks about making an exit from the climate change frameworks. He doesn't support the WTO. He's against global trade. He wants to impose tariffs. He's a president who has accused India for being a tariff abuser. Now he's a president who's against immigration policies. Now, as a developing nation, now I have certain things to worry about.
No.
Now we see the rupees already.
We'll get into policy a bit later. Let the oath happen. Look, all countries on this planet have their priorities. Suhail said it. Mr. Pandit said it in his remarks. So let's not talk about that. Trump, I'm sure, would want to put America first, just like the Prime Minister here. Mr. Modi wants to put India first. That's okay. I'm talking about the larger discourse. Look at these preemptive presidential pardons. Is this a democratic thing to do? Hunter Biden, all these individuals, what's going on?
No, that's something condemnable. In fact, personally, Mr. Biden had lost it right from the time of the Gaza war that took place. He was unable to define it, and then there was a downward spiral altogether. And that was something that he shouldn't have done. But still, I would say that right now, where America is heading towards... and
where is it heading towards?
Towards the protectionist regime, and towards what we are going to witness in time to come now is going to be economically difficult times, especially for the developing nations.
Okay.
And there has to be a lot of reorientation. In fact, that's what prompted our Prime Minister to appeal to the youth to
that's
come
a
out
blanket
of the comfort
statement.
zone.
1 minute. No, 1 minute. Lokesh, you can't have foreign policy discussions like this. Mr. Pandit, I'll bring you in. I just want to quickly bring in Omar Altaf. Omar Altaf, how do you see the return of Donald Trump in the White House? What happens to Pakistan from here on?
I think it would definitely augur well for Pakistan, because during Biden's time, none of the Pakistani leader was able to meet Biden. The previous Prime Minister Imran Khan was publicly critical of Biden and accused America of orchestrating a regime change as well. But Trump, I think Imran Khan has also got hope with Donald Trump assuming office. Probably his party feels that now he has got a good working relationship with the incoming US president. So I think the political configuration in Pakistan could get interesting if Donald Trump decides to get involved. And so it's going to
Mr. Pandit,
be...
what happens to Pakistan?
Yes, far more important things to do. Ukraine, West Asia, the economy. And Donald Trump in the past has spoken about shithole countries. Now, we have to decide, and we all know which countries he referred to. So, I don't think Pakistan will be very high up on anybody's agenda.
Okay, Sushil Pandit. Suhail, I'm coming to you.
Thanks, Pranesh. The issue is that Trump is going to be remarkably different, and some Indian panelist mentioned that the first 3 years of Biden were great. In the very first year, the way America fled Afghanistan, leaving $500 billion worth of military hardware behind, and leaving this entire region in a lurch, and leaving America's reputation completely tarred, showed what kind of president he was going to be. In the very first year of his presidency, his approval ratings plummeted to low 30s, 31, 32. That is the kind of president he was from the word go. And then lurching from one disaster to the other. There are several things to be repaired across the world. And today, Trump's presidency, that hasn't even started, maybe take a couple of hours to start, promises to stabilize regions, promises to reign in Russia, in Ukraine, promises to reign in China across the Pacifics, promises to stabilize this region.
Right.
Our neighbor, Mr. Muhammad Yunus, is already wondering what to do. And that is the kind of president we want, not the president who would wage wars, but the president who, through his writ, through his power projection, through his very clear enunciation of priorities, changes things.
Well said. Suhail, you know, before we shift our attention to other topics, I want you to break down for our viewers, what is the woke mind virus?
The woke mind virus is to say that the world must shift to three things. One is equality for all. No human beings are equal. Number two, we must tolerate all kinds of persecution and prosecution because that's in the liberal mold. And number three, criticize anything which has to do with nationalism or identity building. Taking off from what Sushil said, let me tell you about Donald Trump, and I'll end with that. He is America's president, and there will be courage of leadership. The fact that Justin Trudeau resigned even before January 20, the fact that Netanyahu is talking a particular language, the fact that Zelensky will speak a certain language, you need courage of leadership. You cannot be popular. Winston Churchill famously said, the only person you've got to be popular with is your wife. I'm sure Donald Trump understands that. We must recognize, Pranesh, that Donald Trump's agenda is not to please India. His agenda simply is to make America great again. If he succeeds in that agenda, he will be remembered. If he doesn't, we will have the discussion 4 years hence. Simple.
All right.
It's logic.
Let's see how this unfolds. Gentlemen, I thank some of you for joining us on debate number 1.